Hello, universe. Welcome to my world. We're still on to Angelina Jordan, and today is no exception. We're doing something different today. We're going to be discussing the nature of art and artistic inspiration, and more will we get to it to focus on Angelina Jordan. First thing I want to talk about is the nature of the creative spark, and this is something which I'm fascinated by and I'm in total admiration. Where does it happen? I mean, is the idea here, or is it a feeling, or is it a vision? And when I say vision, I don't mean this sort of vision, I mean this sort of vision, like toast popping out of the toaster. And so, how does that transformation happen between what you perceive with an idea or a feeling and the actual medium of the art? How does that get expressed? And so, to illustrate that, let us cast our net in the far past. We will begin by looking at Vivaldi and the Four Seasons. He had the vision, he had this feeling of what spring was like, and he captured it musically. He captured the chirping of the birds, he captured the flowers blossoming. Have a listen to this. Wonderful, joyous, bouncy. You can really hear all of nature coming to life. Another wonderful example of how an idea or concept can be translated into music and be so evocative also is from 300 years ago. This one was written by Handel, George Handel, who was an Englishman who also did the Hallelujah chorus, and he did something for the coronation of the English king, which has been used for every coronation since. And this piece, Zadok the priest, captures the feeling of royalty, and it was a time when royalty and divinity were not so clearly differentiated. And it captures the pomp and the majesty of the coronation of a king. Listen to this. I like this one. Wonderful, majestic, wonderful. That type of creative spark is manifest in different ways with different artists. Unfortunately, a lot of artists are struggling artists. Now, struggling usually means they cannot make a living, and financially they are deprived. They may not even have enough food to eat. But we will be talking more about the suffering artist and the tortured artist, the artists who are in pain, internal emotional pain, where they have a need to find an artistic outlet to ease some of the pain. And the most famous and striking of this example is Vincent van Gogh, or as my Dutch friends would say, Van Gogh. He world famous, he's ridiculously famous, and he was extremely prolific. For the last 10 years of his life, he was producing something like 4 artworks a week. So he had a really, really strong need. But he also had mental illness. He was institutionalized many times. He had depression, and the very famous portrait that he did after he sliced off his own ear just before he ended his own life. So he really had a lot of pain and distress, which was the driving force of his artwork. Another example, very interesting, and this is in the field of music now, is Edith Piaf. She is the French chanteuse who was born in France in 1915, which was a really bad year to be born in continental Europe because it was still the middle of World War One, and her circumstances really highlighted what a difficult time it was. She was abandoned at birth by her mother, and when she was a year old, her father went off to war, and she was raised by her grandmother who ran a brothel, and she was blind for 4 years between the age of 3 and 7. So with a life like that, full of hardship, but she was a wonderful, wonderful singer. This is her most famous piece of music, I reckon. I regret nothing. I will not butcher the French language and say it in French. And she captures a certain type of defiance in this song, and she just belts it out, and it's wonderful. She lived hard, and she sang hard, and she played hard. She was a free spirit, totally free spirit.
Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal.
Now, that was Edith Piaf. And because we're doing an Angelina Jordan channel, I'm going to now play an Angelina Jordan song, which was originally by Edith Piaf. It's another one of her incredibly famous songs from Edith Piaf, and this one is La Vie en Rose.
Hold me close and hold me fast. The magic love you cast. This is the La Vie en Rose.
That was Angelina Jordan. Next we come to Billie Holiday, who is a very famous inspiration for Angelina Jordan. Billie Holiday is another famous artist who had a very difficult life and whose emotional trauma really inspired her work. She was never sure who her dad was. Her mother was evicted at the age of 19 from the family home when she was pregnant. Billie Holiday stopped school when she was 11. She was living at the age of 14 in a brothel with her mum. The song I'm going to play is not Gloomy Sunday, which both she and Angelina Jordan did. I'm going to play a little bit of a song which is famous. Billie Holiday sang All of Me, and then I will play Angelina Jordan's version of the same.
All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good without you?
That was Billie Holiday, and Angelina Jordan pays a wonderful tribute as well.
All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good without you?
That was Angelina Jordan. Now, one more point I want to make. The other type of artist who really do suffer and are tortured for the sake of their art are comedians. 3 examples. Robin Williams, the great American comedian, Tony Hancock, the English comedian, and Spike Milligan. All 3 of them had profound depression, and the first 2 actually committed suicide. So a lot of great artists really do suffer for their art. Now, we come to Angelina Jordan. She has a different vision of what art could and should be, and her vision is much more rare. She has not had the pain of these type of artists, and she has not needed her pain for her inspiration. Of course, there are some bereavements she's had, but these are relatively minor blips compared to the whole course of her existence. What she does is actually, I believe, much more difficult, for example, than what Vivaldi would do. Vivaldi had this image of spring and he put that into music. What Angelina Jordan does is she doesn't even externalize it in the same way. She has this inner feeling, and she has this inner feeling of joy, which within her inner world, which she is able to communicate directly without having to put it on an external object. And this, I find, is a very, very elevating and very enlightened approach and very rare approach to the field of artistry. And so she's really coming from a position of grace, not a position of misfortune. There are very, very few other artists who come from art from quite the same direction. William Blake, 200 years ago, the famous English artist, he was a poet and a painter, but he was also a visionary, which is a wonderful, wonderful term. Visionary is like that. And then, of course, the other famous artist who had this wonderful, wonderful vision is Dante. He was the famous author from Florence, and he wrote La Commedia Divina, which was from 700 years ago, the Divine Comedy. Dante is considered to be the first Renaissance man. He was a man of his age, and one of the ways of defining a Renaissance man is he knew all the knowledge there was to know at the time, which was possible 700 years ago, but it is certainly not possible now. And you have to remember, 700 years ago was before there was anything resembling science. I mean, we had the forerunner of chemistry, which was alchemy, where people were trying to convert lead into gold, and we had astrology, which was the forerunner of astronomy, but that was about it. But he was very, very well versed in mythology and all images, and he takes us with the Divine Comedy. First, he takes us Dante's Inferno through hell, and he takes us through the 7 different levels, which include things like greed and lust and gluttony. And the transition is through purgatory, and then he takes us through the 7 levels of heaven. Now, he actually called it paradise, and it is a very sad testament, I believe, to the human condition that the 7 levels of hell are known so much better than the 7 levels of paradise. But that's for another day to talk about. So we come to Angelina Jordan's vision of heaven, her vision of something wonderful and positive, and we have really, really quite a choice. She's recorded over 130 songs, and I'm going to make an unusual choice, and today we're going to look at her latest, which is Million Miles. Let's have a look at this first before we have a chat.
When I was a child, I walked the streets. They see me growing up, knew you were all I need. Had seen in myself through all the years. It's like it's in my tears. I think what is giving me the smiles and the memories, but now it's not here to hold my hand. In the light of the blue sky, I'm not alone to fight. I've never regret what I do. We're a million miles apart. It's pulling my heart like an empty bubble to be thrown. I can't make it stop, but I know in my heart, I know that I'm never alone. I know that I'm never alone. I know that I'm never alone, never alone, never alone. No. You said I'm watching you from the moon. I'm everywhere, see everything you do. I I can't see you, but I know you're here. It's like you're in my tears. I think what is giving me the smiles and the memories, but now it's not here to hold my hand. In the light of the blue sky, I'm not alone to fight. I'll never regret what I do. We're a million miles apart. It's pulling my heart like an empty bubble to be thrown. I can't make it stop, but I know in my heart, I know that I'm never alone. I know I'm never alone. I know that I'm never alone.
That was Angelina Jordan singing A Million Miles. Now, it's a beautiful song, full of feeling. She's very sad, it's poignant, there's her emotional vulnerability. And this song was written and dedicated to her grandfather, who she lost recently. And a lot of people can relate to this song because they've had a recent loss and they can understand how she's feeling and what she's communicating. But, and this is a very big but, why is she climbing the ladder in this video? What is that about? Does that mean she's climbing the ladder to heaven? Doesn't mean heaven as in the afterlife. And Angelina Jordan, I don't believe, has anything like suicidal tendencies as per the lyrics of Gloomy Sunday. Maybe she just wants to get closer to her grandfather. But she is being elevated. Maybe it's part of the transition, for example, as in Dante's Divine Comedy, where she goes from hell to heaven, where she goes from bereavement to happiness and recovery and redemption. And to begin to really, really understand what the song is about, we have to go back to Angelina's grandmother again, Mary Zamani, or as we say, all roads lead to Rome, and we have to go back again to Angelina's granny. Look at this photo. I love this photo. This photo captures the bond of mutual adoration between Angelina Jordan and her grandmother. Now, in order to discuss this painting of Mary Zamani, which I believe goes a long way to explain this video and its meaning, I'm going to have to do a bit of a disappearing act. This photo, first I will tell you what it is not. It is not a statement about anonymity, where the people are nameless and faceless. That is not, for me, what this painting shows. For me, this painting is a humanitarian painting. This is about the whole sweep and nature of people binding together. This painting to me is a feeling of community, a feeling that we are all one, all of mankind are one. This, for me, is a painting about charity. And if you look towards the top of the painting, you will see the ladders. These ladders lead up to the row of angels at the top of the painting. And this, to me, is a statement of personal improvement and personal elevation that we have access to. It is to lead us to the concept that we can improve ourselves. Hollywood has very often a theme in its movies of personal redemption. So to go back to Angelina, as I said in my previous video, she has very, very directly said she wants to bring happiness to the people of the world. And she has also said that when she sings, she closes her eyes and she goes to this special, special place.
When I sing, I go to another world. It's in the world. It's like endless. It's amazing.
What do you mean by endless?
It's like full of happiness, and I love it's amazing.
Now, whether this place is some type of paradise or some type of ecstasy, the talent and the genius, the musical genius of Angelina Jordan is she communicates that place and she takes us to that place. And so when you and I listen to an Angelina Jordan song, this is how we react. We react because we are taken to a very inspired, enlightened place that Angelina Jordan has access to within her inner world. This for her is her inner heaven. So the question is, how is the most wonderful you can feel when you hear an Angelina Jordan song? And can you sustain it? Can it go into minutes and hours and days, that feeling? That is our challenge. And that is enough to think about for one day. Okay, gang, I've filled your boots today. I'm out of here.